The world and factions of Lord of the Rings are now in Minecraft. An ambitious mod currently in development takes us to the third age and features an incredible amount of content already. We're taking an in-depth look at the Middle-earth mod today. So, let's take a journey into Tolkien's world. When you load into the game, everything will appear as normal. In order to get to Middle-earth, you'll need to craft an item. Luckily, it's not that hard to do. In order to get the Starlight Phial, you need 3 pieces of glass and an iron nugget. Once you have that, fill it up with water. For the final step, you need a glowing item. So, glow berries or glowing ink sac will do. Now comes the fun part. Right click with the file and you'll be taken to a new menu where you can choose your faction and where you spawn. For the good factions, right now you can choose Gondor, Lothlorien, Rohan, the Dale, Longbeards, and the Shire. What's cool is depending on the faction you choose, it affects your height in game. If you're a hobbit, you're like 1 block tall, and if you're a dwarf, you're slightly taller than that. As for the evil factions, you have Mordor, the Misty Mountain Goblins, and Isengard. Once choosing where you want to spawn, you're dropped into Middle-earth. I would recommend you let your game load the world for a few minutes. It gets a little laggy. So once you get into the world, I recommend you craft a new type of map that shows you the entire world. So right now, the mod on its own does not add any of the major cities, but they plan on adding immersive structures and settlements in the future. They do have naturally generating homes and buildings in each of the factions' areas that you can loot. As for what this mod does have right now, it adds around 3,800 new blocks, hundreds of new weapons and armor, and brand new smithing mechanics we'll get to soon. Here's a look at some of the armor sets. What I pulled out here are some of my favorites, and they only scratch the surface. You have stuff from Gondor, Rohan, Mordor. I mean, they all are very high quality, and none of them look bad. I just want to say I'm not going to go through everything with this mod, because there's just so much stuff in here. I originally thought this mod added just the world of Mordor and the factions. No. I was so wrong. It adds so much stuff, and I'm impressed with what the developers have been able to do with this. It's absolutely insane. So now let's take a look at some of the weapons. Each of the factions has around 5 to 7 weapons, and they are mostly the same. Most of the factions have a sword, longsword, dagger, axe, spear, and some sort of ranged item like a bow or a crossbow. In addition to the faction weapons, there are also generic stuff you can make from normal Minecraft materials. There's wooden daggers, stone daggers, golden items, iron stuff, diamond, and there's even netherite weapons you can make too. So the big question here is, how do we get these weapons? You can't craft them at a normal workbench. Instead, you have to create them at a forge. The main purpose of the forge is to heat up items and turn them into smithing parts. Some of those items will come out blazing hot. To give them shape, you have to use a treated anvil, and you have to hit them with a smithing hammer. You can also use a cauldron to cool down those hot items by right-clicking. A lot of the new ingots you get are acquired at the forge, so you can mix iron ingots and coal to get steel. There's also Edhiel steel and Burzum steel. I highly recommend checking out the wiki because I was lost trying to figure some of this stuff out. So where do we take all these materials? Well, there's a new crafting area called the Artisan Table. This is where you can actually put together the daggers, tools, and armor. One note here, the developers recommend you have the EMI mod so you can see what materials are needed to make everything. It certainly helped me. So now, let's get into what I think is the coolest part of this mod, the NPCs. As previously mentioned, there are several factions. Within each of these factions, there are several types of soldiers. So here's the breakdown. Each faction has a militia, soldier, knight, veteran, and leader. So the main difference between these units is the amount of health they have. The militia has 20, and then the Gondorian leader has 26. They also use different weapons. Some factions are a little different. The Lorien militia, they start at 25 health, while the leader has 31. So, the Hobbits of the Shire are supposed to be the worst faction with only 3 troops. They don't have much armor, if any, and the worst weapons. However, in my experience in this, they absolutely kick ass for no reason. I don't know if it's because they're just so small and hard to hit, but they put up a really good fight against all the other classes. So there are a few more mobs in this mod. I think some of the biggest ones are the Snow Troll and the Stone Troll. They are massive, they have 120 health, and they're really hard to take down. You're going to need like a group of players or to really outsmart them to take them down. If you're unable to fight a Stone Troll straight up, there is a cool mechanic that you see in the movies where If you wait until daytime, a troll will literally turn the stone. So you just need to outsmart it until sun's out. So I really only touched the surface of this mod. There's so much more in here. And for being an alpha, the devs are doing a great job. Speaking of the devs, shout out to Oblivious Crab for answering my questions. If you are a fan of the Lord of the Rings, I highly encourage you to check this out. But that's really all I have for now. If you liked the video, consider subbing. Later.